Hey guys, this is Anon with some FV4202 gameplay today. It's not my first video on the FV, but it continues to be one of my most requested tanks to do reviews and videos on, and I think it makes sense just because it's not the easiest tier 10 to play and manage because of its advantages being hesh and its weak turret. So I can see it being a little bit difficult, but once you figure this tank out, it really can be a lot of fun. So we're on Oasis Palms and instantly going to make the way into the dunes as you should, especially in a medium with good gun depression. I like to either stay on the ridges here to my left or pop up on some of these hills if I really do have good gun depression to try and get some early spots. Frequently I'll push in higher or farther into the map if I have stronger turret armor, but because this tank doesn't, I don't always want to be that first one out in front. And so I'm going to work up just a little bit more slowly than that and try and get some spots in. So right away, get the E5 in now. They start kind of popping up all over us, which is why I didn't want to overcommit and push much farther than that, because you can see that the numbers are pretty strange. They're pushing up really hard on this side, which they should be, but my team is hanging back pretty far. So that means I don't want to overcommit because I'm not going to have the meat shields to really be able to compete with some of these bigger tanks. So switching to hesh because I know I'm going to get some nice side shots, and actually intending to hit the back of its turret, the E100's turret, like I do, because I know that's where the ammo rack is. They've pushed really hard into those dunes, so like I said, I need to kind of buy some time to get some more support. So I see the Object 704 kind of drifting here in the back and decide to get rid of that big gun here a little bit more quickly. I'm really watching the minimap hard. I know where the ridge lines are, so I can kind of keep an idea based on the minimap how close they're getting and whether they're going to start getting shots in on me or not. The KV4 doesn't really represent a big threat, but since he's so kind of out here alone and showing me his back so I can get some big rolls with the hesh, decide to go ahead and kill him first. Plus that way, we don't have a gun shooting us in the back as we start to work towards some of the big tanks. So you can see the nice high damage rolls that hesh gives as long as you're shooting into those nice soft spots. Can now turn around and actually just buying some time is let us split them up a little bit. All four of the red tanks are still here, but they're not on top of each other, so it's going to give us a little bit better possibilities to work through them one at a time. Managed to get one more hesh shell snuck in there before he turns and can't do it anymore. So just kind of work this E100. Now our team is starting to kind of form up here again, which is good. So I know that I can get rid of this big gun before having to turn. And now we've kind of worked it back into a 3 versus 3 situation where we were down a little bit there for a while too. So E5 has gotten himself a bit exposed. So I'm shooting at the tracks hoping to stop him. I can tell pretty quickly what's happening here. The 140 is trying to push our Yagaru because he's a little bit alone. So I want to push and try and save him if I can, although now I can see that he's only a 1 or 2 shot. So he's not going to be totally saved, but it does give me an opportunity to really farm the damage off the back of this 140 with some hesh rounds. Lots of hesh use in this battle, but I mean that's really where this tank shines. So anytime you can get yourself behind tanks, that's when you're going to have nice wins with that. So the E5 I was trying to track before is now the only one alive. He's clearly going to get the T-34, and he's got more health than me, so I'm a little cautious coming in, but again, trying to get that nice hesh round in the back of him. And since I do, now I'm in a much better hit point situation. The 4202 is not the best circling tank unless you have him tracked because of the lower speed, but because of the tracking and hitting his engines, lets me able to move in and make sure I can get that guaranteed kill. So nice little example of really moving around with the 4202. It really is not a frontline brawler like the Russians. You got to work off the sides. So luckily that battle was able to manipulate to allow myself to do that. Okay, so switching over now to Lost Temple, I'm going to keep kind of with the theme here of working more of the sides and flank with the FV. So just kind of taking a look at the matchups. red team is quite a bit heavier than we are, and because I don't necessarily have the biggest turret armor ever, I know I don't want to run straight up onto the temple steps like I would necessarily in like a Russian medium or something along those lines. So I decided to come up here into kind of the entrance into the temple, and also kind of keeping an idea or a look here on what the team's doing. A lot of them are following me into this flank side, so I know that the temple isn't necessarily going to be a big, great place to fight from. So I want to definitely not commit up in here. I know I have enough view range to my left and back that if anything starts to flank, most likely it's going to be spotted. So I'm more concerned with this temple area and hoping I can just get a couple quick shots as they work their way up onto the steps. So I'm giving a good amount of time to kind of lay out, and nothing's really showing on the temple until I start to leave. But that's not a shot I'm really going to get anyway, so I decided to go ahead and keep pushing forward and hoping some of their slow TDs are working up this backside and taking their time. And luckily that T-28 prototype does just that, and I'm able to get a nice shot into him there. I have to use APCR because I'm shooting through destructible. That second shot could have been hesh, but I was just taking the easy shot while also really seeing where all of this develops. I see the 704 push on the backside, so now I'm going to switch to hesh because he's engaging our T-44. I have no desire to chase out after him because tanks are starting to spread out and that's in the open, but I move forward enough so they're not going to get shots on my left if I'm not paying attention and something sneaks in on me. So just taking my time and getting the hesh shots in. Now I'm starting to get penned from the right, which is their flanker, so I want to roll back a little bit so I don't take too many more. I think my finger slipped there, which is why I didn't get that extra shot off, but the 44 is still sitting up nice and pretty, so I'm able to put a few more hesh rounds into him. It looks like I'm pretty exposed there, but because of the building, I know it's really just my turret, so as long as I can kind of time it, he's going to have a hard time pinning me in that situation, so I can work through him a little bit. That PTA that I had seen earlier is now pushing up to the flank, so I decided to chase him a little bit just to kind of keep an eye on where he's going and hopefully get a hesh round into him first. But I'm not going to keep chasing him around the map because some of their big tanks are now getting more exposed. So I can turn left into the temple and obviously get some hesh rounds in. I switched to APCR because I don't need, or 310 is kind of a waste of a hesh round. The APCR is gonna give me that alpha pretty much every time, so there's no reason to waste the credits. And then instantly turn on the E100. So luckily it's starting to lay out pretty nicely, but I've farmed a lot of damage because I've been spamming hesh through most of this. So I'll go ahead and heal my tracks just because I want to be able to maneuver and keep him from running away, so can get the hesh round in and really end up creating kind of a quick battle where being on the outsides of the temple let me really kind of dictate where all the tanks were going and kind of funnel them back up to the rest of our team. So it turned out really nice for that kind of a situation.